Hello, this is our Rats back once again with ICC analyzing the game between Fishead and Nakke. This game was played in Team 45-45 League Week 5. It was submitted for consideration of Game of the Week. I'll give you an analysis of this game and hopefully it will generate some debate. Okay, take a look at the position. I will pose a question right here. Let's get it set. Black to play and do the best he can. Now, I've done this before and I've had you pause the video, but I'm going to hold the solution to this until the end. Let's go back and see what happened. But before we do, just take a look at the position. Black is ahead 2 pieces. White only has 2 pawn compensation for it. There they are. I've circled them. If Black can survive this attack, he's probably going to win. Question is, can he win? What are the resources here? We don't know yet because we haven't undertaken an analysis of it. But it's an extremely interesting game, and I hope that you find my analysis of this position and game to be quite intriguing. Okay, let's go back to the start and see how this all came about. Okay, so far simple book moves. They call this move the whirl attack. It's similar in some respects to the alternative main line of rook e1. It does take on tendencies of one particular main line of that, which we'll get to in a bit. Okay, I don't know the pure book moves here. Those aren't important. You may look them up on your own. Okay, this is the key move in this position. I've actually been familiar with this type of opening and middle game for about 40 years, something I learned real early when I was getting into chess before the Fischer boom. That's when Bobby Fischer played for the World Championship, and everybody and anybody went out and played chess. Okay. The basic idea here is that the center is going to be locked forever. White will try to attack on the king side, and Black will try to get a little counterplay on the queen side and hold his own, defending his king. Okay, let's see how it develops. Okay, g4 was played probably to stop Black from going ahead and pushing with f5. Okay. Now both sides still haven't completed their development. Notice one thing I've talked about before, how the white queen rook and queen bishop are still on the original square. It isn't as important as it might be in this type of position because the center is locked. If the position is open and diagonals and ranks and files are accessible, it can be quite dangerous to be behind in development. Okay, what does queen c8 do? Well, perhaps it threatens to take here. I don't know. I didn't analyze it, and I'm not going to. That's something for you to look at on your own. Let's see how white reacts. Okay, white reacts by preventing that possibility. And at the same time, preparing to push f4, at some point bring this knight over to f3 so that the bishop can get in place somewhere on the diagonal so that this rook can finally get developed. Okay. Meanwhile, Black's one undeveloped piece might be better just to sit there. Why? Well, as I mentioned, at some point, Black will undergo a queenside counterplay, and it's possible the A file may open up, and the rook is perfectly placed when that happens. So, White has a little more space here, but Black has probably equality. He's just going to have to defend the coming attack and get his queenside counterplay going. Okay, what's next? All right, Black says, I've got pawns on Black squares. You've got pawns on White squares. Let's trade dark squared bishops. Nothing wrong with this plan. Is it the best plan? Possibly. Could black have tried something better? Maybe. Let's just take a quick look. Black might try a risky move like g5, but I'm not too sure about that move. It does stop f4 unless white's prepared to sacrifice a pawn, but it also opens up his king position. White will have some possibilities to attack the black king in these lines. So let's just take a look. Okay, black has achieved his aim. He's gotten rid of the dark squared bishop. He's also helped white out by developing his undeveloped pieces. One has been exchanged, and now the rook on a1 is on c1, but it may not be its best square. Also, as I mentioned, the fact that at some point black will try to push his queenside pawns. He's taken the white rook off the a file. So there is something to be said for that strategy. We can't fault it at all right now. Okay, let's go on. Okay, just simple maneuvering moves. The king g2 is played here because at some point you want rooks on one file or the other, and if the king has to run to the queen side, he'll do it. And this could be especially useful if the pawns get entirely locked up on the queen side and black can't break through. Examples: if this pawn is up here and these pawns down to here, okay, without a sacrifice, black isn't getting anywhere, and the white king is safe somewhere over on the queen side. Okay, let's go continue. Okay, more maneuvering. Nothing but little maneuvering moves. I don't see anything, any major errors. There's probably a lot of different ideas here, but looking at all those isn't important in this lesson for the purpose of just getting to the main ideas. Okay. Okay, now the queen side is almost entirely locked up. White doesn't really have any useful break here. a3 at some point will leave a weakness on b3, but black is poised to push with a5 and a4 and take on b3. It would probably be a mistake to go to a3 and lock up that queen side because, as I mentioned, the white king will just run and doesn't even have to run all the way. Just get over to e1 or e2, and the rooks can have fun on the open files, or soon to be open files. Okay. So my mouse is sticking. 1 second. Be ashamed. There we go. Okay. White says, I'll trade off that knight and open up a diagonal towards your king if you're not careful. And black wants no part of that. Okay, now black has got some queenside counterplay here. If you look in my own personal library, game 2 against Arabuni 2750, he's an international master. It's a 5-minute game I played a number of years ago that I lost. I put it in my library because white had some chances. It didn't. It wasn't a Ruy Lopez opening, but the position took on the characteristics of this variation. You can see in that game that black won because he got effective queenside play going, and my kingside play just wasn't enough and quick enough. Doesn't have to always be the same opening, but the same principles apply. Look at that one on your leisure. Okay, what happens next? Okay, white just continues making moves towards the black king. At some point, black might want to consider parking the rook on a7, forestalling his counterplay, finding a better square for the bishop, and the rook can defend along the black second rank. Just a possibility that will exist many times. We're not going to look at every possibility of it. Just keep that in mind if you study this game a little further. Okay, on we go. Now here's the first interesting move, finally. White offers a piece. Now I don't know exactly how sound this is because I didn't put it on a chess engine, but needless to say, it's a thematic sacrifice. The author Hans Kamak calls this a Benoni jump, I believe. If you have a copy of his book Pawn Power in Chess, he talks about it. So it does threaten mate in one. Black needs to deal with it. Okay, so black accepts the piece. He says, well, if I can survive, I'm going to win. What happens? Okay, now, once again, white has a threat of mate in one. Black's got to deal with it. Now, more pressure on the knight, and black is kind of tied down to guarding things. And white sticks a bishop on h5, says, I want to get rid of one of the defenders. So black has to stop and deal with that. And now comes another sacrifice. Again, I don't know if this is sound, but further analysis will determine it. I want to get down to the key point. Okay. Black accepts the second piece. Okay, now we've reached the position I set up in the beginning. Black to play in, do the best he can. Pause the video, set this position up on a board, and have a look. Okay, you should have pressed pause. If you've pressed pause then and taken a look, you may have found a very interesting resource for black to hold a draw. Alright. One thing you have to realize is black, you're two pieces up. If you've got to give a little wood back, do it. Get out of the pressure. I believe black has incredibly good drawing chances with queen e8. Okay. What can white do? He's got three pieces left, but at least they're his strongest. So let's suppose he goes and threatens a mate in one with rook h6. Okay, now black's got to get that king out of there. And white says, oh look, I win your queen. However, black retakes with the knight, and black should be okay here. He's probably got a draw. Black has a rook, a bishop, and knight for the queen, and that's more than enough. In compensation, white has two pawns on h4 and on f2. Are they enough? For white to try for a win here, he's got to advance at least the h-pawn. What can the f-pawn do? Well, at some point it can go to f4, and if black takes, maybe white can push the pawn to e5 and offer another pawn sacrifice. Whichever one black takes with, white will have a new pass pawn. At some point, black needs to connect his rooks to slow down the advance of the h-pawn. Maybe he's got some counterplay still with rook a3, rook a2. But this was something black should have considered. He didn't. If you look at his clock, he really didn't have much time. Okay, let's revert back to the main position and see what happened. Okay, black played rook a2, finally getting his queenside counterplay. Unfortunately, this loses the game quickly because now mate is threatened and there's just really no way to stop it. Black just plays a couple of moves and or actually one move, and realizes he's lost. There's no way to stop mate, and game is over. Okay, wonderful game by white. Were there resources for black? Well, we found one. Were there better moves for white? Well, we don't know yet. Somebody does. I'm sure this game has been analyzed more so by Fishead and maybe others that were watching it than I have. But it's a game under consideration for the game of the week, and I've opened up a discussion on it. Please feel free to comment about it. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next time.